At Direct Service Garage Doors, we are your one-stop shop for all things garage door. From garage door repair and broken spring replacement to new garage doors and openers, we do it all. We're proud to be among the highest-rated local garage door companies in all of Northwest Arkansas. Our highly trained technicians are available 24 hours a day at no extra cost to you. So if you have an emergency, call us today, 479-203-5880, or visit our website at directservicenwa.com. Don't wait days. We'll fix it now.
All right, everybody, welcome to the preview show for, Arkansas taking on Missouri on the road. And, of course, we're a day early. Well, I mean, the game is a day early. It starts on Friday, so we're going to get you started. 3, 2, 1, yo. I hope you guys have had a good week. First off, let me say happy Thanksgiving to you, Otis Kirk.
Same to you and your family, man. I appreciate everybody out there and the people watching and listening to this show and just reading our stuff, or just people following the hogs, man, and read our stuff, and listen to your videos, which are the best in the market. And everybody, we got, like you've said before, you can read Kevin and Dudley, and getting Dudley was a grand slam for Lanny when Dudley became available, and getting Dudley over here became a grand slam for Lanny, and and then got you and John after that. So it's we went from me and Kevin to 5 of us, and it's been a great move.
Yeah, it has. And John, of course, our photographer, does fantastic.
He's best person in the world too, man. Not just great photography work, but a great person too. I mean, good as gold, man. That guy would give you the shirt off his back. He's just a great guy. So, I mean, and in the world, and honestly, that's more important than being a great writer, great video guy, or YouTube guy, or a great photographer.
Yeah. We could fly. I'm going to cover up the dew today. It's out of my hair. It's out of control. And I can already hear my dad.
You're doing good, man. You can see mine. It's not what it used to be, man. I used to take pride in my hair, man. Thank you, I appreciate you, man.
I've had a busy morning. I haven't had a chance to do anything, especially hygiene-wise, other than brush my teeth and kind of, brush the beard a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. If you guys would also go over to hogville.net. We've got you covered over there. Free content, all free. Kevin, McPherson, Dudley Dawson, Otis Kirk, they all have you tonight. Just a heads up, I will not be available for any pre or post game content for basketball. I'm sure Kevin will cover the post game. I don't know if they're going to do a pregame or not, but go. I mean, look, it's going to be an interesting matchup tonight for Arkansas. We know they lost last night against the Blue Jays. That was I don't know if you got a chance to catch much of that game or not, Otis, but
yeah, I covered it.
You did. That's right. Yeah, you did. Yeah. You talked about that before we went live. You covered it in the paper.
The Musselman was mad after the game. That's the maddest I've ever seen him. He may get fined for what he said, but I mean, it's fine. I mean, the one call that there were several weird calls or 9 calls, but the one on Trevin Basile, I believe it was his 4th foul. It was fairly late. And they even reviewed it to see if it was like a flagrant or something. It's like, if you're going to do that, why don't you just wipe out the call? Because he didn't foul the guy. I mean, it was ridiculous. It hurt that Jordan Walsh, I guess, got in the lane a step early. Because, I wrote in the story, they could have been an overtime game had that not happened, because they were down when Ricky Council hit that 3 there towards the end. They were only down 1 then they had to foul, and they got down by 3. But if Walsh that free throw, if Walsh hadn't gotten in the lane, it would have been tied at that point, tied, and they wouldn't have fouled. So, I mean, it easily could have been an overtime game. And the officials, look, man, I think, I'm just thinking NBA, the college game, they call way too many fouls. The refs make it too much about them. It's really disheartening me just to watch. And I'm not getting on here saying they cheated anybody. I thought it was weird. I thought it was bad. Yeah, there was a lot of phantom calls, but the biggest thing with me is there's just too many. The refs make it too much about them anymore, and they have for years, man, and at both levels. And I'm a big NBA guy, and I'm not saying they cheat the Lakers. I'm just saying they call too many. I watch games. have the NBA ticket, Ty. I watch games that are not even the Lakers involved, and it's just a foul fest, and I hate that, man. I mean, I don't like a college game. You can watch Duke, North Carolina. There's too many fouls, man. I mean, it's just don't make it about yourself, refs. Let the kids play, man.
It was ridiculous. There are several. I saw Anthony Black try to drive the lane and just get absolutely murdered, and you didn't see a call, but the other side of the floor. On the other side of the floor, it was the other way around. The Arkansas was not allowed to. There was just no contact allowed. I'm not one of these types. I try not to be, anyways. And yeah, I am a little bit biased, but I try not to be that guy to be like, oh, well, that's a foul. That's a foul. That's a foul. That's a foul. I try not to be that guy. But that last night, that was very hard to avoid. It was
in a 3-point game that really, like I said, was really a 1-point game because they wouldn't have fouled there at the end. Don't tell me that calls don't make a difference in a game like that. I mean, when it's that close, when two teams are pretty much equally combined. I mean, they're pretty equal, both of them. And it makes a difference when there's that many foul calls. The difference, I mean, it makes a big difference. Like I said, if you take away one of those calls, one of those 2-point calls, free throws, then that game's going down. I mean, it could go into overtime or something. Or Arkansas might have edged out a 1-point, eked out a 1-point win. So I mean, officiating does make a difference, and it doesn't every game. And I'm not saying tell you every time Arkansas loses in any sport it's because of the refs, but I'm telling you, the game at Auburn 2 years ago, the refs cost them the game. The game last night, it sucked. The referee, the officiating did. It does make a difference in some games. It has and does make a difference.
I put a tweet out last night. And we'll get to Missouri. We got a lot to cover. We'll get to it here in just a second. But I put a tweet out last night that was the worst officiated game in the Musselman era. And
he said it was the worst he'd ever coached. I mean, all the time he's ever coached, it was the worst he'd ever seen, Ty. I'm paraphrasing kind of what he said, but he said, I've never seen it's in my story if anybody has access to the papers. But yeah, he really he was mad. I mean, and I don't blame him. I mean, I get it. And then you've got people saying, "Oh, yeah, he's whining." Well, I mean, what are you supposed to get on there and say? They did a great job when they sucked. I mean, come on.
Well, and that's who he is. I saw people on Twitter, even Hog fans, upset about the way his antics on the court side. Look, man, that's how he is. That's how he is, and he's not alone in that. There are a lot of coaches that get that way. They get riled up.
See, that's why I've had people tell me, Ty, that Sam Pittman needs to be a bad butt. Look, man, that's not who Sam Pittman is, and that's not what they didn't use the word butt, but that's not who Sam is, and that's not who Eric is. They got to be who they are. They got to be who they are. You don't want people trying to be the worst thing somebody can do in life, whether you're a coach or a reporter or just a human. The worst thing you can do is try to be somebody you're not, and that's terrible. And I would never urge someone or suggest they should be someone they're not. You know,
sure.
And that's who Eric is, and I like a fiery attitude. I mean, I do too. Tom Landry was on the other side with Dallas that never had an expression. That's fine. But that's who Tom Landry was. Mm-hmm. But that's not who Eric Musselman, and then Sam Pittman is Sam Pittman. I don't want people being somebody trying to be somebody they're not.
Yeah. We have I'm getting text messages about something going on. So let's just go ahead and let's start off first with Arkansas, Missouri. That is what we're supposed to do here anyways. Arkansas, Missouri. We got a lot to talk about with the portal. We're going to get into bumper pull and all that. But let's start with this Arkansas versus Missouri game. I do have some interesting matchups here that I was looking at. Their third down percentage on defense, Otis, kind of stands out. I mean, opponents are only converting 33% of the time on third down.
That's because they're very good against the run, Ty. They're very good against the run. So they're trying to they're putting you in a one-dimensional system. And they know if you're going to pass, sometimes on third down, the element of surprise on third short, the advantage is element of surprise, and you throw the football there. I remember Missouri State on fourth down with 4th and inches threw the football for a touchdown against Arkansas. That's where, but they take a lot of that element of surprise away because they just don't let you run the football on them. But that's kind of who Missouri is, and just, I mean, that's why they're so good on third down, though, is because it's hard to run the ball. And look, Arkansas and most teams that prefer a balanced offense or even lean to the run offense, they prefer to run on third down, especially if it's third and reasonable length. And they make it tough to do that, Ty. They're very good at that. Tennessee's the one team that had a ton of success against them, in running the score. Georgia should have lost that game at Columbia.
Yeah.
Georgia should have lost the game at Columbia. And Tennessee is the one team that I can think of off the top of my head that's gone in there and dominated them. The rest of these teams, they've lost some games, but they've been pretty tight. For the ones off the top. I know Georgia was a game that Missouri very easily could have won. I know Auburn was a game they very easily could have lost, So, so it's, I guess, no, they did lose that game. I'm sorry. Very easily could have won that Auburn game. The kicker missed that field goal just as I walked into AT&T Stadium, and he's probably the best kicker I've seen in college football in a while. Yeah, so they very easily could have won that game. Is what I should have said.
Looking at Missouri's schedule too, Otis, this is a weird team. Like they should have beat Georgia, right? Yeah. But then they lose to Florida 24-17. It's down in the swamp. I think I picked Florida to win that game, but thought it would be competitive. They do hold off Vanderbilt 17-14. They beat South Carolina on the road, who at the time was 25th in the country, 23-10.
I remember that.
And then they turn around and they lose to an underwhelming Kentucky team. They get stomped, like you mentioned, to Tennessee 66-24. They're a weird team. They lost to Auburn early in the year when Brian Harsin was still there, 17-14.
Yeah, that's the game I was talking about where the kicker missed that field goal that would have won the game, and I said they should have lost. They should have won that game. Is what I meant. I just remember walking into AT&T Stadium and they had the TVs on. That was the day of the A&M game, and John and I walked in there and we saw him miss that, and I said, "Man, that guy doesn't miss field goals. I mean, he's money," and he missed that chip shot. Yeah, they're a hard team. They've killed me on my picks. That's one reason I'm in fourth place. They've killed me on my picks because them in Florida, because you just don't know what you're getting. They'll win some games. I mean, but the one game that sticks out to me, the two games that stick out to me with Missouri are the Georgia game and the Tennessee game. But I don't look for listen, man, you saw how fired up Arkansas was Saturday night. Saturday night. They were up 35-6 at halftime, come out and made it 42-6 on the second play of the third quarter. I'm telling you, Ty, Missouri's going to be the same way. They're at 5-6. And that's why I told you, that's why I wrote. I said to everybody who would listen, Arkansas did not need to lose to Ole Miss and then go to Missouri being 5-6 and both teams playing to be bowl eligible. You don't want to do that on the road. Now, what's the difference here is Arkansas is bowl eligible and got their bowl secured, but now what's in play is how good a bowl do you go to, because 7-5 will get Arkansas to a different bowl than 6-6 does. I think the Gator Bowl is there possibly for the taking if they beat Missouri. Doesn't matter if they beat them by 1 point or 50 points, and they won't beat them by 50. But it doesn't matter. I just think 7-5 and 2-game winning streak at the end of the year, KJ Jefferson and stuff. I think that, and Rocket Sanders, I think that gets Arkansas probably to the Gator Bowl. If not, you've got the Texas and Liberty Bowl, I think, are the next two in order. The Music City and Vegas are there, but I think they're down away now. But now, if you're 6-6, I don't think the Gator Bowl touched them. I think the Liberty still would take them. The Liberty Bowl loves Arkansas because it's all about the greenback, man. I mean, you got that East Arkansas money coming to Memphis, and they will do it in droves because there's no Little Rock game this year. So a lot of those people with gas, inflation, everything, maybe they haven't been to Fayetteville, especially every weekend. And they would love to see the Hogs. I've got a lot of friends in Eastern Arkansas, and they would love the Liberty Bowl. So I think the Liberty Bowl probably would take Arkansas at 6-6. But if not, then you're looking at probably the Texas Bowl, the Vegas Bowl, or somewhere like that. But 7-5, I do think the Gator Bowls are. Look, I'm fine with the Liberty Bowl. I don't care where they go. I'm just glad they're going to a bowl game.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Going bowling is a big deal. It's big because
I've been to Music City. I've been to Liberty. I have not been to the Texas Bowl. Robert Tuberville went for us the year they played there. He and Natasha went down there. I got to Tulsa to get on a flight to go to the Vegas Bowl when Arkansas played out there, and was very sick. And my boss called me and told me to go back home. So I was out there in Tulsa, drove through ice to get there, and then get to go.
Is that when they lost? That was when they lost to UNLV, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't miss a thing, man. I'm telling you, you know. I think Aerosmith. You don't want to miss a thing. Well, I missed that, and I'm not regretting. It was a nightmare, man. I mean, they sucked.
That was bad. I've heard a lot of stories. The guys were out gambling the night.
Oh yeah, they were. People staggering on the sidewalks. I mean, it was not. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the dedication. Let's go focus in on. It's a business trip. It wasn't a business trip.
No, it wasn't. That wasn't.
Yeah, a lot of business, but it wasn't ball game.
Right.
And I will say this: they played with a band-aided quarterback. Robbie Hampton was so beat up. That was the year that they lost 3 quarterbacks in one game. With that was over here at the. South Carolina, I believe it was, where they lost 3 quarterbacks in the game. Robbie Hampton, I believe Zach Clark and Jared McBride, if my memory's right. I was there, but and Robbie finished the game basically just with Band-Aid together, and he was beat up even at the bowl game that year. And so that was one thing, but yeah, it wasn't an inspired deal. I was at the Music City Bowl when Arkansas played, went from the SEC championship game to Music City Bowl, played Minnesota, and they were probably less inspired there than they were in Vegas. I mean, it was equally uninspiring an event, and I was in Music City Bowl. It was so bad that I ended up driving home that night and drove all night to get back to Fayetteville. I didn't want to stay in a hotel. I wouldn't even want to think about that game.
Back to this game really quick, though. Arkansas's favorite, according to the infamous FPI, Football Power Index. They're favorite at 55.8%. The spread right now is in Arkansas's favor at 3. The over-under at 55.5. I haven't filled out my picks yet, but if you're going to make a case for Arkansas, if you're trying to tell me, Ty, you need to pick Arkansas, tell me why, because this is a tough one. I mean, Missouri offensively not on the same level as Arkansas. They're 362 yards per game, whereas Arkansas is 465. But it's the yards allowed, and you know, they don't give up a ton of points. They're only giving up 338 yards. In this day and age, that's a big deal. Yeah. That's actually really damn good.
And that's with the Tennessee game factored in there, Ty, or it would be a lot better. I mean, their points per game allowed.
Make the case. Why should and I'm not saying you are, but just tell me why should I?
I haven't filled out my picks either, but I just think Arkansas is a better team. Therefore, you know, if you're picking Arkansas, you can pick them because I do think they're a better team, and they've never won in Columbia.
Never.
And so, just, you know, I can't make many cases because they've never won there. They find ways to lose it. They've had big leads. 1 year BA was beat up really bad. They just come off 47-0 over a combined 47-0 over LSU and Ole Miss.
Yep.
They went up there, but BA was beat up. They lost 21-14. Went and beat Texas in the Texas Bowl that year. Then the one time they've gone up there and the one when Sam went in 2020 was just whoever got the ball last was going to win, you know, Ty. Yeah. The one nightmare was when Chad went up there. It was 38-0. I was there. It was a cold, rainy day. And I tell you what, it's like, if I never see Columbia again, I'll be fine with it. Yeah. I mean, 38, Columbia, not Columbus, but Columbia, 38-0. It was as bad a game as you could think of. I mean, it's a typical Chad Morris game. I mean, I hate to say that, but it was just a typical Chad. They started Ty Story, and then he allowed us to fumble for a touchdown or a safety or something. And then they brought in Connor Nolan, and the quarterbacks were getting killed as usual. No offensive imagination. It was just a nightmare.
Yeah. They need to win this. I mean, simply because Arkansas fans, and I feel like the program still looks down on Mizzou, and yet Mizzou has kind of owned Arkansas since coming. So I feel like this is a game that got to take serious. I'm sure Pittman understands that. I'm sure his staff is going to take this game serious. I'm concerned. I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning when you said Missouri's playing for a bowl game. Arkansas secured their bowl. We saw what happened last weekend when Ole Miss walked into town, and Arkansas.
The hornet's nest that they walked into, that Ole Miss walked into in Fayetteville, and I predicted it. I knew. Well, I've said for a while Ole Miss was overrated. They had the benefit of a soft schedule. They were not as good as they were ranked, and they played a very soft schedule. They played UCA and teams like that. They played a very soft schedule. I knew they were going to get exposed, and I felt like Arkansas would be the one of them that exposed them. I didn't think it'd be 42-6. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I thought that, but I did think Arkansas would win, and I thought they'd probably win by 10 to 14 points over them. I just think Ole Miss is I don't know what's going to happen to Egg Bowl tomorrow night. I have not made my predictions, but it wouldn't surprise me if Mississippi State goes into Oxford and wins. They probably won't, but it wouldn't surprise me. But they've lost 3 of their – once the schedule got tougher, they've lost 3 of their 4. And they only beat A&M, I believe, by a field goal, Ty. I may be wrong. I think it was only a field goal they beat A&M by. So
should have lost that game.
Yeah, they could be 0-4 in their last 4 games. And I knew when they hit that stretch of games it started with LSU. They played LSU, then A&M, then Alabama, then Arkansas. I knew they were going to get exposed, and that's exactly what happened to Ole Miss.
Yeah, I like this comment here. It'd be great to end Missouri season tomorrow.
They don't. These teams don't like each other. It's not some fake rivalry. They don't like each other. And I'm not saying Missouri is the biggest rival on Arkansas's schedule, but I do know the teams don't like each other. And Trey Knox said that yesterday. Trey Knox said that last night. He said, we don't like each other. And so I think, but I do know what scares the part that would scare me about answering your question about why Arkansas won. It's just, I saw the hornet's nest that Ole Miss walked into. Even though I thought Arkansas would win, I never thought they'd come out and dominate them like they did. And I know in Missouri just scared. I mean, I saw some of that Georgia game. I don't remember who Arkansas played that day, but I know I had some time to watch a little football before I went over there, or maybe, I don't know. But I do know I watched a little of that game, and I thought they were going to win. And then when I got to, and then I found out later they lost. I didn't get to see all of it. But I just know anybody can do that. Nobody, they've done to Georgia what probably nobody else has. And then Arkansas, but Travis is right. Pittman's done a lot of things. If you look at a lot of firsts in 3 years, and hopefully it does continue Friday, because here's the deal. I mean, you've got Missouri sitting there. You can end their season. And if not personal, but I mean, that's your goal. And like I said, also Arkansas is playing for a better bowl. I mean, the Gator Bowl to me is the top bowl in their possibilities.
Yeah.
The losses to Liberty and A&M took them out of like going to Orlando or something, Ty. Let's be honest.
I think so, yeah.
The A&M and the Liberty, I can't talk. The Liberty game and the A&M game, to me, you're sitting there right now. You're sitting there at 8-3 if you won those 2 games. You're talking about a whole different set of animals. I don't think like Tampa would take them again because they had them last year, but I think Orlando would have been glad to get them. I mean, there would have been more options at 8-3 than 6-5, but 7-5 will get you, I think, to get Jacksonville, Florida to the Gator Bowl, and that would be a good game,
Right.
Now, I will say this: there's some people saying that if Arkansas goes to Texas Bowl, they will play OU. Now, that would be a good game. I'm not high on going to Houston, but I'm telling you, playing Oklahoma would be an exciting bowl game.
Did you see what they did to Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Like, not only has Arkansas or Missouri season been weird, college football, the entire landscape it's been wild.
Where was TCU picked at in the Big 12? They were picked down. I think they were picked 7th or 8th, I heard. I watched the Baylor game last week, Ty. They played Baylor, and I watched it. And I want to say the announcers, maybe I'm misquoting them, but I think they said TCU preseason like 7th or 8th in the conference pick, and they're in number 4 in the nation. I mean, they're in the playoffs if they beat Iowa State and they beat Kansas State or whoever they play.
Yeah.
Travis talking about Bielema. That's where you go to the Music City Bowl. You might get that. That would be in the Music City Bowl.
You feel like, I think they have to beat Missouri to get the Music City Bowl. I feel that way. Do you feel that way?
I think the one bowl of the better bowls that would take them if they were 6-6 as Liberty, simply because of the travel. I mean, I don't know if the Liberty would at 6-6. I don't know that, Ty.
I don't know. They were petitioning us up in the media box.
They want Arkansas. They want bad. I think they would take Arkansas. No, the Music City or Gator Bowl, it's going to be 7-5. And then even then, I don't know that music. I think there's going to be some teams that they take at Music City instead of Arkansas. And that's fine with me. Nashville's good, but I'm not thrilled about going to Houston. But if they go, that's fine. Look, man, I'm just proud. I'm getting to go to a bowl game and get to see the team play one more time in person and everything. So I'm not going to be spoiled and sit here and cry about where I go. I mean, Lanny's letting us go, and I thanked him. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm not one of those that takes anything for granted, especially after the 2 to 3 week little deal I had the first season. It's humbled me a little bit that I don't take anything for granted. So being alive and covering this football team has been an honor for me this year and been a great thing. Yeah.
Let's really quick bumper pool. Is he done? Is it over for him as a Razorback?
Yeah, it looks like it, and it's bad. But the good thing about it, if there's a positive there, there's two of them. One is he got to play enough to break Tony Bua's record. Tony's a great guy. I had dinner with him about 6 or 7 months ago, I guess it was, maybe a year ago. He was in town, he and Shane Collins, and I had dinner with him. So it's not personal about breaking Tony's record. Just, records are made to be broken, and it's good that Bumper stayed healthy enough to do that and then play some more. He's been a great Razorback, and he's one of those, like I talked about with John. He's even a better person than he is player. Bumper's a better person than he is player, and he's a great player. But second, you've got Pooh Paul, man. I mean, that kid has really amazed people with his play this year. He's amazed everybody, and he's ready to go. And you got he and Drew Sanders. And I asked Drew about this here a while back at a press conference. I asked Drew, I said, what's it like? You and Bumper together are one of the best linebacker group two in the country. And yet when you bring in Pooh Paul, you don't really lose a whole lot. What's it like to have a guy like that where you have two people as good as Drew and Bumper, but yet you bring a redshirt freshman in, and there's not a noticeable drop off. In some ways, Pooh can do things that Bumper can't do. And something, I mean, he's got more explosion, especially with Bumper beat up. He's got more explosion to get in there and hurt the quarterback. I mean, to get to the quarterback and rush him or sack him or pressure him, And so, I mean, it's and Drew agreed. I mean, he thought it was awesome to have a linebacker that good. You just don't expect that, when you have two people. I remember some years here at Arkansas where they would play two linebackers till they fell over at the game because they just didn't have anybody to put in. And that's a great benefit. Quality depth, man. And we've had people message this show about depth. Quality depth matters. And that's exactly 100% right there, man.
The quality depth does matter for sure.
Oh yeah.
I've been telling people for years on over on my other show that I'm going to have the t-shirts made. I'm going to have that saying trademarked. Quality depth matters.
Yeah. You've said it a million times. I've heard you and other people say it, and it's just, it does, man. I mean, you get a kid. Well, you've seen what happened when they take KJ out. When KJ's hurt and can't go,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. And it's just, so when you lose a kid like a Bumper Pool, or if it'd been Drew Sanders instead of Bumper, but you bring in Pooh Paul, it's great to have that. It's just like when you put McAdoo over there at corner. It made a big difference in that defense, Ty. It's night and day different.
It's nice that, I mean, we saw it in fall camp, and I go back to that a lot, but we did. Pooh Paul stood out in fall camp. Yeah. He stood out, and so did Jordan Crook. And so that actually brings me to my next point. The transfer portal. What does, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about the running back situation. We've already had one running back in the portal.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Because you wrote an article about that. You guys need to go read it on hogville.net. Again, completely free.
It's going to be Freak Out Monday. It's definitely going to be Freak Out Monday, but it's not just all about the portal, Ty. It's part of it is seniors announcing they'll come back or not come back. Kids leaving for the portal. And I get, you can't get into the portal until December the 5th. I'm aware of that. I've had people message me when I ride there in the look. I know you can't go in till December the 5th, but you can announce your intentions to go to the portal at any time. And there's going to be a lot of kids. There's going to be some kids announce that on Monday or Tuesday next week, and especially Monday. What it is, Sam's having his player meetings, individual meetings with players, and there's going to be some kids that tell them they're training. Most of it's going to be kids that are buried on the depth chart. They're not getting to play. They don't see the future. But and people are going to freak out. But Ty, let me tell you this: I'm going to make this prediction: Arkansas will improve dramatically by who they get out of the portal than who they lose. And there are going to be some kids leave that you don't want to leave. There's going to be some really good players for the future that are going to leave. But I'm telling you right now, and this is not a shot at anybody, but they're going to get better players out of the portal than they lose. And I say that because that's what Sam Pittman and his staff did. People freaked out about Joe Fauché and Greg Brooks last year and Vito Calvaruso. The kid that came in from Texas State kicked just as well as Calvaruso. And I was one of the people freaking out about Calvaruso because I thought that kickoff is just invaluable to have a guy who can put it out of the end zone every time. Yeah. Bates did the same thing. I'm telling you, man, but they got better players out of the portal last year than they lost.
I think that's true. And I was actually going to ask you that. And one of the reasons why I was leading in with Jordan Crook and the linebackers, I was going to ask you, do you feel pretty comfortable about the linebacker core coming back? I mean, obviously Pupal's going to be back. Jordan Crook, I expect to be back.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Drew Sanders. I'd feel a lot better if Drew Sanders comes back. If Drew goes to the NFL, yeah, I know, and that's probably going to happen. And Arkansas knew that going in. They knew it could be a one-year deal with Drew. That was
he's special.
Yeah, if he comes back, then you might not see a linebacker from the portal. If he doesn't, then I think you definitely take a linebacker. And that's not a shot at anything about Crook or anybody else, but it's just the fact that I think you need an established guy there. I think they could take a linebacker maybe either way, because Sam has said that he's changed his opinion on the portal. In the past, he only would take people who had a chance to start, but now he wants, if it gives them better depth, he said he's done that, and he's learned that you need to recruit some kids. So they may take a linebacker either way. I think the urgency of a linebacker in the portal depends on what Drew Sanders does. If he comes back, I think that's less urgency. You might what you might do there, Ty, you might take a younger guy who maybe is not someone you would want to necessarily play next year, or could play the Chris Paul role, or would combine with Jordan Crook for second team or something. You still got Manny Powell there too, and Caden Henley. But I'm just saying that I think a lot of that depends on what Drew Sanders says is what they do in the portal at linebacker. I think there's less urgency. Well, I know there's less urgency if Drew Sanders comes back. It's just the same way with KJ. Somebody talking about if KJ comes back, I think you still go to the portal for a quarterback. I do.
Yeah, and I think they will. I agree.
I think Malik's probably out of here. He hasn't told me that. There's he went there last year, and he's got to play even less this year, or only played a little bit because KJ was hurt. It hasn't necessarily gone well. Important's out, but you would have KJ. If KJ comes back, you'd have KJ and Malachi as scholarship quarterbacks, assuming that Malik does leave. Well, you can't do that with two scholars. And I love the Cade Renfro kid, but he's had 2 ACLs on the same knee and going against air. So you just can't. If he was healthy as like a Cade Fortin, I'd look at it different, because I really think Cade Renfro is a decent quarterback, but you can't. Yeah. He's not healthy, Ty. So I think Arkansas has to go. And a couple of names to just keep in mind there would be maybe a Jacoby Criswell from North Carolina and a Haynes King from Texas A&M. They recruited both those kids out of high school. They were dual threats. That was the year that Chad took Chandler Morris and over both of them. And I've seen all three play, and they're all good quarterbacks. But and I know people would say King stunk at A&M. I don't put that on Haynes. I think I put that back on Jimbo.
Mm-hmm.
He's not the quarterback developer. He's been Jamias Winston made Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher did not make Jamias Winston. And if somebody says I said that, that's great, because that's exactly how I feel.
This is the sentiment I'm getting to out of a lot of fans right here, which is what let me pull it up. Brian Fraser says KJ should come back this season, or he should come back, this season didn't help him at all. I don't know that I agree with that.
I don't know how it hurt him. I mean, the kid.
I don't either.
The kid missed 2 games that he didn't miss last year, but he's still just thrown what is it? 3, 4 interceptions. 2 of those bounced off the tight end hands.
Yeah,
2 of those bounced right off the receiver's hands into the hands of the defenders. So I don't. Well, the thing about KJ, the thing that kind of mystery to me anyway, he hasn't exactly, even going into the season, he wasn't. I mean, ESPN put out 25 quarterbacks for the draft. He wasn't on the 25 list, Ty. Yeah, and that's going into the season. That's not talking about how he did this season, regardless of what you think about this season, which I don't agree with that either. But I mean, regardless of what Brian or how anybody says, he wasn't even on the top 25 going into the season. And so, I mean, I don't know that going to the NFL would be a wise decision for him.
Well, so I'm kind of split down the middle on it, because while I don't agree that he didn't progress, I do think he progressed this year. If you look at his out-of-pocket pass completion percentage, it's the highest in the SEC. That wasn't the case a year ago. I think his third down pass completion percentage is actually higher while throwing the ball more on third down this year.
Yeah, he didn't have Treylon Burks either.
He didn't have Treylon Burks this year. And say what you want about the wideouts, while it's great that they had who they had, it's not like he was throwing the world beaters outside like he did the last year. And then, of course, the Missouri game the year before that, when he got his opportunity to start over Felipe Franks. I think he has progressed. I don't think that it's a misnomer. I don't think that fans should just throw that to the wall and hope that it sticks. Well, he didn't progress, so he shouldn't go pro. You got to realize these players, especially guys like KJ, who are quarterbacks in the SEC, have people around them whispering in their ears. They just do. It's well known. No, I'm not accusing KJ of having people that don't have his best interest at heart, but got to remember it's not as easy as, well, he didn't progress, he needs to come back. The other side of it is he's not getting a lot of looks from draft prospects or people who break down quarterbacks for the draft. He's not getting a lot of looks. So while I think he has progressed, I don't know that if going into the draft would be wise for him this year.
Well, I think he's one guy, the one guy over there. There's more than one, but I think it may be more important for KJ than anybody else to get that pro evaluation that they get, see what they tell and listen to listen to that. Don't let people, and I'm like you, I'm not saying KJ has somebody doing it, but I know it's just human nature. People will tell you sometimes what you want to hear. And that's not directed at KJ, it's not directed at anybody in particular. It's just life. People tell me what I want to hear at times. But yeah, he's progressed. But my problem goes back to what I said about he wasn't in the top 25 preseason. Does that mean Kuiper and those guys are God? No, it doesn't. But I'm just telling you, they're getting their information. They got a job to do, and they do it fairly well. Not wrong, but top 25. Think about that. He wasn't in the top 25. KJ needs to make sure that the information he's evaluating and making his decision on is coming from the NFL, and listen to it. So I think he needs to be the one guy more than maybe anybody else on that team that needs to listen to what the NFL, they turn in those evaluations and Sam gets them for the players. He's one guy that really needs to listen to that. Yeah. On the other hand, I can see KJ saying, hey man, I have nothing to prove but coming back. I've been hurt this year, beat up, missed 2 games.
Yeah.
There's nothing else I can do at Arkansas that I haven't already done. I can see that and therefore go to the pros. I can see both ways, Ty, and I don't know what he's going to do. He was asked that last night.
Another thing too to keep in mind is if you don't think that he, talking to anyone who believes that KJ has no shot or shouldn't go, whatever, look at what just happened to Hendon Hooker. And if you don't think that has some kind of an impact on these guys,
sure does. Especially guys been beat up all season. KJ's played beat up, and he's going to because he's a dual threat quarterback in the SEC. Arkansas was very, very, very fortunate to get him through 13 games. I think one reason they were able to get him through 13 games in 2021, they had teams like UAPB, that directional school in Georgia that they played where they could rest him some. He wasn't, and even when he was in there, he wasn't necessarily having to do a whole game to win the game for Arkansas. He didn't even play the second half of UAP. I think the schedule, when you play Missouri State, you play Liberty, you play Cincinnati, you play, those schools, it makes a lot of difference in how much. I think they played a lot tougher non-conference schedule, and thus one of the reasons maybe he only played 11 or 10 games. I'm sorry, it'll be 10 tomorrow. Or Friday, be 10 instead of 12 that he played last year during the regular season. I know he played, and as far as I know, he'll play the bowl game, barring some disaster at Missouri getting hurt up there. He should play in 11 games this year, whereas he played in 13 last year. I put a lot of that on the schedule. It was easier last year. The non-conference portion of it, SEC is always the same. It's a killer. I mean, you're in the SEC West, there's never going to be an easy schedule. The non-conference was easier in 2021 than it was in 2022. It required him playing his butt off. Even Missouri State, they dug themselves a 17-0 hole, and so he had to dig out. He had to be in there digging out of that.
Yeah, the person who put this schedule together should be fired. Well, they put these schedules together years in advance. It's not like they just wake up sometime, in the summer and they're like, "Oh, here we go." It is years in advance, and I'm sure when they did that, they didn't think Cincinnati would be as good as they were. And
they were going through coaches. Tuberville, he left Tech to go there. They were going struggling. I want to say that was a down period in BYU's time when they actually scheduled him. I want to say BYU has been pretty good most years. I think when they actually scheduled it, BYU is probably at their lowest point. They were having some issues. I may be wrong on that, but Cincinnati, you're right, was definitely down. Liberty, I mean, that was probably scheduled earlier, either before or early in Hugh Freeze's tenure there. Missouri State, they've played Missouri State on and off through the years, I don't know if they thought Bobby Petrino would be the coach there. Yeah, I don't like scheduling Arkansas like that. I don't like those easy wins. Well, hey, when you're in the SEC West, you're going to get plenty of good football to watch. Arkansas deserves 2 or 3 opponents. I mean, I would schedule, if I were doing the schedule, I would schedule one pretty like Texas or something like they did in 2021, and then 3 cupcakes. That's what they did in 2021. I thought that was a good schedule for the Hogs, Ty, because you had the one named school, the Texas, and then you had 3 pretty much cupcakes to play. And then you had the SEC. As I said, it doesn't matter to me about the non-conference. I hear people say, "Oh, they shouldn't play those teams." I do shows with people complain about the weaker schools. Hey, man, they don't have to play in Alabama every week, man. Come on. All right. LSU or Ole Miss or an Auburn or Tennessee or, you don't have to play that every week. Come on.
Yeah. And the final thing that I wanted to talk about really quick, you feel like I'm starting to feel like no matter what bowl game they go to, they're going to have, I feel like there's going to be a few opt-outs. I'm not talking about transfers. I'm talking about guys that, might just opt out simply because there's a shot at them getting drafted. I kind of feel like this is going to be an opt-out heavy year for Arkansas.
Yeah, I think a lot of that may come out Monday. The only thing is about that, I don't know that they've got, the reason I might not agree so much with that, Ty, is because I don't know if they've got this surefire number 1 first round draft pick like they had with Traylon Burks last year. Even the guys like Hazelwood, I think's going pro. I don't know that opting out is going to help him any, because I don't know that. Stromberg may be a 2nd, 3rd round pick, maybe. I don't know. I've seen him projected in round 2 or 3 earlier in the year. I haven't studied this lately, but I don't know if opting out of one game at center helps you. I don't know. It could be, and I do think it's. That's just the way it is. But I don't know that Traylon Burks was a surefire first round draft pick. Right? I know he was projected by some to go in round 2. I never bought that.
Penn State, if you recall, Penn State had something like, I don't know how many opt-outs. how many of them were first-round picks, right?
Well, and you're right. That's why. Yeah, I just don't. I'll be honest with you, and they may very well do that. I just don't know what benefit there is for a kid that's going to be drafted in the 3rd or 4th or 5th, 6th round. You know, and I get the Hendon Hooker. I get it. I get that, and I know that can happen, and it can cost you not being drafted in the 5th or 6th round. But I mean, it's one game. You've played your life. You've played your entire life. You've played this game for your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
What is one game? I mean, I just don't. I understood Burks. I mean, I've got mixed emotions on opting out. I mean, because you tell us all year it's a team sport, and then you opt out. Yeah. Is it really a team sport?
I feel the same way.
It's not directed at Traylon. I mean, you can substitute anybody. Penn State guys. But I'm just saying. You hear all year it's a team sport. You know, I'm doing it for the team. And then you opt out. So, but I don't know what benefit there is for a Razorback this year to opt out. But maybe they look at, hey, if I get hurt, I won't have any chance at the NFL draft. I won't get to work out for the NFL teams. Maybe that's what they're looking at.
I wish that worked both ways too. We talk about, well, the players shouldn't opt out. I wish that worked both ways with coaches too. I hate it. I know, like the year Houston Nutt didn't coach in the bowl games because he got fired. I understand that, and we had a change with the athletic director and everything, but unless they're fired, I really wish they'd let these coaches and coordinators just coach these games, coach these bowl games. Yeah. I know that's a little bit more contract. Well, it's a little bit different.
Puts the players in a bad position when the coaches leave like that, or your head coach is fired. You can't let him coach one more game, especially like Houston had just beat the number 1 team in the country at their place, the eventual national champion that year. The eventual national champion just beat LSU, the number 1 team in the country, the team that won the national championship, and you can't let the guy coach one more bowl game. I mean,
ridiculous.
No, I've never agreed with that. I thought it sucked at the time. I still think it sucks. I don't care if people like or hate Houston. I don't care about that crap. I don't care if they like or hate me, but I'm just telling you that stunk, and it does. And you're right. And when coaches leave, and Auburn, Ole Miss may get into this situation. It depends on who you believe. But if Lane Kiffin takes the Auburn job, you can almost bet your rear he won't coach the Mississippi bowl game, the Ole Miss bowl game. And he's going to take some assistants to Auburn with him. I'm not saying Lane will take the Auburn job. I don't know what Lane's going to do. I don't really care, but I just know that I thought it was funny when he said if they watched the first half of the game last week, they might not have him number 1 on their list. Lane wins the internet every time, man. He's number 1 in the internet. He wins that every time. He's great.
And the last thing we can end on this. Did you have any comments on James Joyner hitting the portal? We've got people asking about it in chat. I know you know him.
Yeah,
you've talked to him.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. James is a type kid that, he recruited his butt off for Arkansas. The sad thing is he and Dax Courtney were the 2 key recruiters in that class. Getting kids here. And then, he gets here. He was buried on the depth chart. And you had Rashad Dubinion in the same class with him and played at the same school that Jimmy coached at. And so, you look at that. Then you look at A.J. Green. You look at Rockets, just a sophomore. And I think James – here's the deal with these kids nowadays. They don't want – there's not very many KJ Jeffersons out there that's going to pay their dues and wait their turn. Yeah. And I love James Joyner, man. He's like my son. I mean, I love the kid to death. Still love him. I'm not mad at him. But, he did what he thought was best for him. But it's just right now, Ty, and that's why I tell people, don't freak out about these kids. Like Warren Thompson, I saw so many dumb statements when he left, and the guy was demoted to fifth receiver at best.
He fell down the depth chart. He did. As the year went on, he did.
But James Joyner was a kid, and kids right now, and it's not just at Arkansas. It's going to be everywhere. They just don't want to. They don't want to be patient and wait their turn. And they look at the depth chart, and then you see this 4-star coming in from Florida next year at running back, and you think I'll probably be behind him. It's just not there anymore. Patience is not there a lot of times. Like I said, I don't care what KJ Jefferson does, I will always admire the heck out of that kid because of the way he handled his quarterback situation, bringing transfers in, and he waited his turn, and man, did it ever pay off. But there's not very many kids will do that in this day and age.
No, there's not. And that's really unfortunate. And Drinkowitz just mentioned this. He talked about the society that we live in now wants instant gratification, and there's people don't want to actually work their way to the top. I tweeted that. I retweeted that video, and it exploded on
Mark
Twitter.
Stoops said the same thing, Ty. He said you got people recruiting his great freshmen off the campus. Mark Stoops said the same thing at Kentucky.
He did that on the radio show.
On Arkansas, and Sam Pittman said, "Oh, he's lost the locker room." All bull crap.
Yeah,
Sam Pittman hadn't lost the locker room, folks. This is going on everywhere. Look, Drew Sanders, Alabama, Latavius Brenny, Georgia.
Yeah.
Jordan Dominic, Georgia Tech. I mean, Landon Jackson, Dwight McLaughlin, LSU. These are people coming here from those schools. You think Nick Saban lost the locker room? Because Drew Sanders left.
Yeah.
Come on, people. I mean, it's not losing the locker room. It's what we have. Listen to every coach. Forget Arkansas. Listen to Stoops. Listen to Drinkowitz. Listen to any coach out there. They will tell you it's happening at every school, and it's going to happen at every school. That's why I tell you, Arkansas is going to be better. They're going to get better kids than the ones that leave. No matter who leaves, they're going to get better ones because they're going to hit that portal, and they've got a very good recurring staff.
Yeah. I agree. I think
it's just what we live in right now. It's the day and age, Ty.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. We're working on our two kids to not spend so much time on the tablet and to actually try to want to earn, their allowance, and trying our best. But it's hard to do, and it's like you said, it's just the society. We're living in a society. For any of you Seinfeld watchers out there.
What have you done for me today, man? It's not what have I, and there's more people out there. They don't want to wait their turn and work their butt off to get to the top and prove that they deserve to be in the rotation. They just leave. And as I said, I'm not talking about James. I'm talking about kids all over the country, man.
Yeah. Again, I also get to the player that gets passed up by a redshirt freshman or a freshman quarterback like Jacoby Criswell at North Carolina.
Yeah,
I want to go somewhere where I can have an opportunity. I don't blame them either, but you're right. There are many situations where these kids just don't want to work to get to that top spot.
They come for 1 year, one semester, and it doesn't happen instantly. So what do? They pop in the transfer portal, and I'm going to tell you, people. I've learned. I'm an older person. I've learned a lot in life, and I've learned one thing. The grass is not always greener on the other side. You may think it's a hell of a green grass over there, but I'm telling you that green grass can turn brown when it doesn't rain. It doesn't rain all the time, man.
Mike Woods is a very good example of that.
Yeah, he heard it. Mike Woods could have retired in Arkansas and been hired by a million companies. He was loved in this state. That kid had more people loved him in this state, not just as a player, but as a person. I had him on the Hogville. He was on there answering people's questions on the Hogville Facebook page, putting his videos up. And people interacted with him. They loved him, man. Yeah. And this kid went to OU. He was a one semester rental. And I mean, Mike was a perfect example of that. I mean, it's not always greener on the other side. He got over there, and Spencer Rattler wasn't better than KJ Jefferson, still not better than KJ Jefferson. I don't care who rates him better. And Mike found that out, but unfortunately it was one of life's lessons he learned. He learned the hard way, man.
You live by the portal, you die by the portal. And I think most fans, not myself, I think most fans have kind of a love-hate relationship. They're in love with it when it works out in their favor. They hate it when it doesn't.
And here's what's going to happen. We got to remember the portal giveth and it taketh. And what's going to happen? It's going to take this next week. People are going to freak out. They're going to raise all kinds of hell. Then when Arkansas starts getting these players, it's going to be the greatest thing in the world. Look at Arkansas's basketball team. They have 13 players. 11 of them are new players. And 6 of them I know are freshmen, but the rest of them, 5 transfers? I believe 5. So, 6 and 5, so it'd be 5 transfers. So, and people loved it. Nobody griped when Trevin Brazile left Missouri to come here, or when Ricky Council left Wichita State to come here, when the Mitchell twins left Rhode Island. And I remember they got another transfer. I've gone blank on who the other one is, but I mean, that's what people love it. But it's going to be freak out, and it's going to be, oh my God, we're going to win the national championship, when they start getting. But just remember, the portal taketh and it giveth, and it's going to take us next week, but it's eventually going to giveth. And then, I had people messaging me last year when Fauché and Brooks left. They're going to drop their season tickets. First place, if you have season tickets, if you want to drop them, Hey, I didn't buy them for you, and I'm not urging you to. I don't care. I mean, I don't know why you're telling me that. I mean, that's a lot of money. You can do what you want to with your money. I never tell anybody what to do with their own money, but you can send it to me if you want to. But I mean, other than that, I mean, I'll take it off your hands.
I have PayPal. I have a link somewhere.
Yeah, Venmo, PayPal.
Venmo,
I mean,
Cash App. Let's do
it. Fill that sucker up. I mean, let's be in the giving, the taking. I'm in the takers, not giveth, but the takers.
Someone pointed out, well, Mike Woods is on the Browns. I'm not sure I think he is somewhere. I think he's on a roster somewhere.
Well,
the point that we're making is you saw how things went last year at Arkansas, where you won 9 games, you're trending up, and OU, well, kind of got screwed over by their coach. And I think too, would have had far more success on the stat sheet at Arkansas than he did at Oklahoma. He was bound for the NFL because I think he's an NFL caliber receiver. He's going to go to the NFL.
He was a good receiver. That didn't mean he wasn't a good receiver. He did okay at OU, but he would have done better at Arkansas. Anywhere is my professor, Jimmy Jones, my favorite professor in college. I always said the air's going to come out of that ball one day. And what my point was, Mike Woods was going to go to the NFL either way. But what my point was, Mike Woods could have, once the air goes out of that football and he has to retire, whether it's 1 year, 10 years, or 15 years, he could have come back to Arkansas, and because people loved him. They worshiped that kid. He was one that connected with the people. Like I said, he interacted with the fans over there. He contacted me, and we talked about getting on Hogville and Facebook and interacting with the fans. And man, I gave him a green light, and people loved him. That was my point. I didn't say that he stunk at OU. I just said I think it was a mistake. I told him that, but I mean, it didn't matter what I thought. I mean, I thought he made a mistake when he left, simply because I'm looking more not where he's at in the NFL or where he would have been if he'd stayed at Arkansas. Really, the NFL I'm talking about once his career is over, and it will be at some point, whether it's like I said, in 1 year or 10 years or 15, he could have come back to Arkansas and really prospered here, because he was one like a David Basil from Florida, stayed in Arkansas. Quinn Grovey stayed in Arkansas. There's some guys like that come from out of state that connect with the fans. They're loved, and and I mean, it's just David and Quinn were two off the top of my head. There's others, but I'm just saying that's what Mike Woods would have been. He would have been set up for life, and that was my point.
Would have really benefited the offense a year ago too. And I think that could have been the difference in a couple of games. You look at Ole Miss, how close you lost that game, and
last year Tyson Morris was the number 2 receiver on the team, and Warren Thompson was up there as well. And you saw what happened even this year once they weren't better. They don't have a Traylon Burks at receiver this year, but they're deeper. You've got Matt Landers. You've got Jaden Hazelwood. You've got Keytron's healthier now. He wasn't healthy last year, Ty. He's healthier now. So you've got Keytron. And then Bryce Stevens emerges. A lot of it because of Malik Hornsby found him in the Mississippi State game. But after that, he passed Warren Thompson on the depth chart. And that's what led to Warren leaving. I mean, you had 4 guys there ahead of him, and and now I think Isaiah may see some action in the next few games. This game Friday, and then the bowl game, Isaiah Satana. So I mean, and then who knows what Quincy McAdoo? I think he needs to stay at corner, but there again, he needs to do what he wants to do. But I mean, I told somebody that Saturday before the game, we were eating up there, and they said, "But he's a great receiver." I said, "I'm not saying he's not." But I said a cover corner, when it comes to NFL, a cover corner like him, if he's as good as I think he is, he can ride his ticket in the NFL. That's what I'm thinking about. I mean, I know he's a good receiver. I saw him playing. I pumped this kid up the whole time. I said he was as good as Isaiah. I thought he was, but he was just as good on defense as he was on offense. Look, Quincy McAdoo can play anywhere he wants to play, and he's wanting to play both ways next year. If I'm Sam, I may look at a way to get him, leave him at corner, but get him some reps. What's 5 reps in a game going to hurt at receiver?
Right.
I mean, I'm going to keep him at corner, but I'm going to give him 4 or 5 reps. I mean, you got Jalen Braxton coming in and recruiting. If McLaughlin's coming back, as far as I know, I always assume people are coming back till I know for sure they're not. But Dwight McLaughlin and Quincy, if you get Jalen Braxton on campus, you've got some other cornerbacks, or probably get 1 or 2 out of the portal. It might be that you could rest Quincy a few plays. You know, you got Malik Chavis. So, I mean, it might be a situation where you give him 5 or 6 reps at receiver in the game, you know, and yeah, but you keep him at cornerback because that's where, to me, they need him more at corner. I think he's easier to replace at receiver because I think you can find receivers that can play like they did with Hazelwood and Landers than you can cover corners. It's just the NFL loves those guys because there's not very many people that can play press man and hold their own like Quincy can.
Yeah, he was a great addition to the secondary for sure this year. Great switch. All right, everybody, that is going to do it. Thank you so much for stopping by. Remember to like, share, subscribe on your way out. Go to hogville.net for all the latest. Otis Kirk will have you covered. Dudley Dawson. Like I said, I will not be on the post-game or pre-game show tonight. That'll be Kevin McPherson. But yeah, looking forward to the Missouri game. I don't have my picks in yet, but I don't know. I almost feel like I need to flip a coin tonight to make my pick. But I hope all you guys have a happy Thanksgiving. Otis, you as well, sir. Hope you have happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, man. Spend time with your family while you got family, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guy.
All right, guys.
Everybody else out there too.
We'll be live for the post-game show following the Mizzou game. We'll see you guys then.
Thank you, man.